This right here is Hello Kitty, girly girl boss icon that is known all across the globe. Hello Kitty is physically everywhere, from lunchboxes to backpacks to airplanes and even Hello Kitty themed maternity wards. She's cute, harmless, and beloved by millions across the globe, but Hello Kitty isn't just a cat with a bow. Behind this cute, expressionless face is a story about distraction, power, and about erasure. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the politics of Hello Kitty, the dark racist history that hides behind the pastel colors, and how this character as well as the politics of Kawaii are causing controversy to this day. So before we officially begin, we need to talk about what Hello Kitty actually is. According to Britannica, born in 1974 out of Sanrio's character lineup, Hello Kitty, officially known as Kitty White, is a small round-faced cartoon cat-like girl with black eyes, a yellow nose, and no mouth, as well as having a red bow perched atop her left ear. When she first came out, she was first seen on coin purses, school supplies, and eventually her brand expanded her into handbags, makeup compacts, and then eventually jewelry, electronics, and household appliances. In the 1990s, Hello Kitty, and specifically Sanrio, was branded to older adults as retro, coinciding with the rise of kawaii and cuteness culture that was seen heavily in the 90s. This rebrand allowed Hello Kitty and the whole cute kawaii culture to be passed from just a childhood phase into a lifestyle choice that could be marketed across a whole bunch of different products, as well as being marketed through a plethora of different ages.
This guy turned a textile company into a media franchise bigger than Disney. After working a government job, Shintaro Tsuji left to start a small textile firm that failed to take off. Before going back to his 9-to-5, Tsuji saw a trend worthy of another risk. There was a craze among Japanese girls for cute toys. He renamed his firm to Sanrio and began selling dolls and shoes with characters on them. When one of his designers created a cat named Hello Kitty, it proved to be the company's golden ticket. Tsuji gave Hello Kitty a backstory of being an English teenage girl, which resonated with Japan's love of Western pop culture. In a year, Tsuji 7x sales. Hello Kitty's fame expanded across the globe. By copywriting the character, Tsuji created a licensing empire with companies like Nike and Disney. Today, there are over 50,000 licensed Hello Kitty products for sale, and the character has appeared in over 100 major TV shows and movies. Since her creation, Hello Kitty has raked in $89 billion in sales. This makes it the second most successful franchise in history, running only behind Pokemon.
Now let's zoom out. We need to talk about the social-political lens that allowed Hello Kitty and the whole kawaii culture as we know it to be as prosperous as it is today.
What is this place? I don't know. Let's check it out though. Shush. Everybody shush. Everybody shush. It seems as if somebody new has just stumbled upon our pastoral court. Hi there, stranger. My name is Ella Pastoral, and all of the lovely people that you see before you are a part of my esteemed court. From my squires who have early access to my videos, to my nobles who have special behind-the-scenes access, to my dukes and duchesses who are able to pick out topics for my videos, to my own special royal advisors who mean so much to me. All of these people make up the Ella Pastoral court. If you want to be like these lovely people and be a part of my esteemed court, go to Ella Pastoral on Patreon. But it seems as if you need to be on your way, traveler. Let's head back to the regularly scheduled content.
So decades after World War II, Japan wanted to have a reputational overhaul, and they wanted to have more soft power. Soft power is the international influence that one has that relies more on being friendly and diplomatic influence rather than military power. The state of Japan had a huge role in shaping and reshaping the historical narrative surrounding the whole country after World War II, even to the point of allowing the Supreme Court to affirm the authority for the Ministry of Education to control information put in textbooks and underwriting Japan to have a more pacifist victim mentality after the war. This framing allowed for the Cool Japan strategy, a long-term strategy that was meant to push cultural exports as national calling card. Crucially, scholars note that the kawaii Japanese-dominated pop culture from the 1970s to the 1990s made pop culture icons like Hello Kitty a vanguard of pushing this Cool Japan strategy. That softness matters because of what it conceals. When we talk about the atrocities of history, we always mention America with its very brutal treatment of Black Americans and Native Americans, or Britain's horrors and atrocities that it committed during its colonial period. And we never let Germany forget the atrocities that they committed during World War II, nor should we. But when we talk about Japan, the global conversation changes. But instead of reckoning with Japan's imperial past, we fixate on the cultural export, the coolness of its technology, the charm of its pop culture, and the kawaii aesthetic of Japan's media. But underneath this polished image lies a history that is just as dark and just as morally corrupt as Germany's during the exact same war. Accounts of Imperial Japan include prostitution of over 200,000 women, euthanized as comfort women, the rape of Nanjing, and the use of biological and gas warfare, where prisoners of war mistreated so much that it was often in violation of the Geneva Convention. But due to the Cool Japan strategy, most of these horrors and atrocities are overlooked for all of the cool things Japan has done in the last couple of decades. But the less a character says, the more a company, and specifically a state, can imply, and the more easily uncomfortable history can be overlooked for the sake of cuteness. Globally, persuasion shows up in reception. South Korea upheld a ban on Japanese media for 53 years, only letting up on this ban in 1998. And as soon as this ban was uplifted, there was a gigantic audience for the kawaii aesthetic, characters, and media that came from Japan, showing that these kawaii/cute objects could sand down the sharp edges where suspicion once was held. And sometimes soft symbols can have very hard outcomes. In the year 2000, when McDonald's Singapore location ran out of Hello Kitty toys, an actual riot broke out. 7 people were injured and 3 people were hospitalized, going to show us that a harmless face can mobilize crowds and have real-life harmful consequences. But why does Hello Kitty work so well? I mean, literally look at her. She is a universal icon. The lack of having expressions on her face and the lack of her having a story allows people from many cultures and languages to project whatever they want upon this faceless doll. On top of Hello Kitty being a blank slate, Hello Kitty and Sanrio have dominated the entire world, from pens and pencils to airplanes and literal kitchen appliances. That girl is hard to escape. Hello Kitty's inclusion on very mundane items makes it feel less like propaganda and more like personal choice. No politics, no mouth, no opinions, just a simple bow and a smile. But cuteness isn't always neutral. Cuteness is political. Cuteness can distract us, make us compliant, and sell us a worldview where everything uncomfortable is swept underneath the rug. But in terms of soft power, it isn't always a one-way street. People can speak up. People to this day still talk about the horrors committed against the comfort women of Korea, and we still have politicians talking about the nonsense that happened during World War II, such as when the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe effectively retracted the 1993 apology, leading to the US Congress at the time to tell Japan to apologize again. When Shinzo Abe said that, it caused a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment, reminding us that a smile can be seen as silence, and silence is never neutral. From this analysis, you might be tempted to think that Hello Kitty and by extension Sanrio are practically victims of the Cool Japan strategy, but nah, Sanrio is just as culpable here. Both Sanrio and Japan are both guilty on using kawaii aesthetics to obscure or soften Japan's dark history, but also responsible for trying to kawaii-fy problematic and racist imagery. Y'all, I think it's finally time that we talk about Blackface Hello Kitty. Sanrio has never been innocent. If you have been a longtime fan of Hello Kitty, then you know that Kitty White lives in a sprawling multiverse of cute animal-themed friends. Over the years, Sanrio has added new characters, all designed to fit into the heart-whelming, heart-tugging kawaii lineup that they have. But not every addition to this lineup is, how would you say, apolitical. In Sanrio's universe, most of the characters are either white or racially ambiguous, with little to no meaningful representation of dark skin or blackness. And when they do try, it's either very shallow representation or through god-awful stereotypes, and that is where Blackface Hello Kitty really shines through. It was only a year ago where I made a whole video talking about the history of Blackface Hello Kitty and how I was so shocked that a brand that I love so much had done done something so abysmal and so horrific as to make a kawaii version of a minstrel show in terms of these characters right here. If you want a deeper deep dive into that topic, then you should check out this video in the iCards. But as I was doing my research trying to find out why Sanrio thought this was a good idea to add to their brand, I discovered a gigantic rabbit hole as it relates to Japan's fascination with trying to kawaii-fy blackface and how the history of Japan being obsessed with blackface goes back centuries at this point. So this portion of this video is going to be really history heavy because I was just shocked by how extensive it is. Blackface imagery was first brought to Japan by a man by the name of Commodore Matthew Henry in 1854. When he came to Japan, he brought Western minstrel shows to Japanese audiences. From that point onward, depictions of black people were filtered through a European colonial lens and began to shape Japanese perceptions of African Americans and Africans. As Erica Kanisik explains in
Dakko-chan, Black Kitsch, and Kawaii, black people have served as a reflexive symbol through which Japanese people attempted to deal with their own ambiguous racial cultural status in a Eurocentric world. In other words, Japanese society often projected its anxieties about whiteness and Western power onto ritualized depictions of blackness.
But after Japan's defeat in World War II, these ideas didn't go away. They evolved. Just like in America, how we have Mickey Mouse, and that has become a cultural staple. Helen Bannerman's The Story of Little Black Sambo became a staple of Japanese children's media. During the American occupation that lasted 1945 to 52, blackface toys and trinkets were mass-produced and even sometimes exported to the US. The Little Black Sambo character, portrayed as a small boy living in a primitive setting, fleeing tigers, reinforced colonial stereotypes of black people as both naive and uncivilized. This widespread popularity transformed this really racist and offensive caricature into a nostalgic collectible, very much like how we have Disney adults in America who go throughout the country trying to find the little Mickey Mouse wherever they go. And eventually Sanrio joined this whole trend of making Sanbo adjacent racist collectibles, effectively commodifying racism under the guise and veil of innocence. As Kanisik notes, when something becomes cute or kawaii, it practically allows society and people to off-write any valid criticisms because, guys, it's just a doll. There's possibly no deeper meaning to it. But as Bell Hooks writes in Eating the Other, in this way, kawaii culture kind of acts as a soft veil, turning systems of oppression into consumable innocence. Sanrio's bunchaka, something that I have been colloquially calling Hello Kitty Blackface or Blackface Hello Kitty, and Japan's beloved Dakko-chan doll have both been victims to this strategy. Dakko-chan, a popular 1960s doll, was explicitly modeled after racist imagery, with one of its earlier names, and please forgive me for the pronunciation, Koronobu Boro-chan, which literally translates to swinging pickaninny, which is an anti-black slur. So don't even try to come and say, oh, it's just a doll, it can't possibly be racist, when one of the original earlier names was an actual black slur. Tekawa's company president even admitted that the design was inspired by a manga scene featuring dark-skinned savages picking coconuts. Yet over time, Dakko-chan has practically been reframed and reinvented as a symbol of love and innocence, proving that racism can be disguised and even forgotten about under the veil of cuteness or kawaii-ness, whatever you want to call it. That is the whole reason why I decided to make this video, to unpack the politics of Hello Kitty and to unpack the politics of cuteness. When companies say, oh, it's not offensive, it's just cute, they rely on the same logic that allows for harm to be dismissed as harmless, using cuteness as a shield against accountability. It's the same logic a lot of y'all will be using about how it's not that deep whenever I or people like Carrie make any critical content, because you guys would rather just end the conversation and not have any critical discussions on anything ever, so we can all live under the veil of harmlessness, under the veil of cuteness. But products don't make themselves. Choices are made, designs are approved, and those choices have consequences. But let's go back and talk about the craze surrounding Dakko-chan, because I feel like analyzing Dakko-chan and the craze that surrounded another kawaii-fied blackface icon can really get us to understand what the hell was going on in Japan at that time. So some Japanese critics at that time tried to justify Dakko-chan's popularity by linking it to black cultural trends like jazz and anti-establishment youth movements. However, they claimed that the blackness of the Dakko-chan doll and how youths of the time were obsessed with the Dakko-chan doll practically symbolized rebellion against Western dominance. But as some Western youth saw this Dakko-chan revival as being in solidarity with black people and blackness as a whole, that connection was completely built on romanticization, because at the same time that black youths were practically trying to stand in solidarity with black people, black Americans were specifically calling out how racist Dakko-chan and all of these kawaii-fied blackface figures were. So you cannot at the same time say you are standing with a people when those people are saying what you're standing for is built in racism. It can't, those two things can't compute. As Kanisik points out, white audiences often consume racist blackface dolls like Dakko-chan all the time without acknowledging the very racist past that caused these dolls to exist in the first place. In Time magazine's 1960 article, Dakko-chan Delirium described the doll as a baby Martian, completely ignoring the racist past that caused this doll to begin with. The shared denial between Japan and the United States goes to show us how kawaii and racial innocence can practically downplay racial violence under the guise of playfulness. Because imagine I want to go to a cute vintage store and I see this creature or that creature. It's literally violence against me and people who look like me, but oh, it's not that big of a deal because it's cute. It's kawaii. Journalist Margaret Shapiro in her 1988 expose on Sanrio's Sambo line brought this issue right back into the spotlight. Japan's weird obsession with these blackface figurines. At this time, the US was having a huge Japan panic era and was getting very afraid of the rise economically of Japan, and this turned into huge racial hostility. At this time, white Americans condemned Japan's history of engaging in these racist caricatures, completely forgetting that it was white Americans and white people in general who not only perpetrated these racist images, but exported them for Japan to consume in the first place. As Russell 2015 notes, racism became a means of othering, a way to affirm America's moral superiority while displaying its own guilt. Isn't that a damn shame? It's literally a full circle moment here. Erica Kanisik further argues in her paper that Japan's continued return to these very racist caricatures shows that the racist history behind these images didn't go away. Kawaii-fying them amplify the racist history behind these images. She further says the cute surface does not erase violence. It oils its circulation. And this reminds me of when the popular TikToker turned musician Bella Porsche went viral for having the Japanese imperial flag, and when everybody was like, what the hell is happening? Why are you posted up with the Japanese imperial flag? She was like, oh, I didn't know that was the Japanese imperial flag. A lot of real boos will be caught with racist and problematic imagery just because of the fact that they assume it's Japanese and therefore cute, kawaii, cool. But there has been so many scandals of people trying to dress up as this character from Demon Slayer and just picking up random Japanese imperial merch and not connecting it because it's Japanese, so obviously it's cute. That is exactly what Erica was talking about. Within this context, Hello Kitty's silence becomes symbolic. Her lack of expression and her lack of saying saying anything allows anybody and everybody to project onto her, to see her as anything they want except for accountable. Her blank expression makes her infinitely marketable, apolitical, and therefore inherently safe. But with that very neutrality, this has allowed for Sanrio's cuteness to be marketed globally, carrying with it not just pastels and bows, but also the unacknowledged history of racist caricatures. But as Erica concludes, kawaii objects, they act as conduits of positive feeling, and that emotional innocence is what gives these racist constructs the power to persist. To move forward, we have to let go of this idea that kawaii-fying something completely takes away its harmful past. We have to confront the racist histories when we see them, and we have to refuse to let kawaii-ness and innocence absolve things of the harms they cause. And just as Japan and by extension Sanrio have used Hello Kitty as a mascot to practically hide uncomfortable truth, people on the left have also done that with Hello Kitty in order to try to simplify and soften very harsh political ideas. That's what even caused this video to be born in the first place. I wanted to talk about the whole phenomenon of Hello Kitty says ACAB and how Hello Kitty was used in the 2020 Black Lives Matter protest in order to get many people's political thoughts out there. But let's go back all the way to 2020. That year was a hot damn mess. Everybody was locked up in their house because of the shutdown, but at the same time there was a lot of political unrest. There were so many black people being killed in the streets, all while a deadly pandemic was disabling people and killing people in hundreds. At the same time, a lot of people were getting their first introductions to real radical thoughts, and a lot of the way that people were introduced to a lot of left-wing ideas was through those little Instagram infographics. I don't even know what they're called, but an icon for this movement became Hello Kitty. I saw so many Hello Kitty says ACAB slogans and icons being passed around TikTok, Twitter. If you were online at all during that time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hello Kitty says ACAB and Hello Kitty Black Lives Matter was everywhere. And it was just a weird time because now that I look back on it, it's kind of like, why the hell did y'all take Hello Kitty in order to try to protest? But at that time, this was the most a lot of people could do. A lot of people had fried immune systems because of the fact that COVID was a mass disabling event. The 2020 pandemic was a mass disabling effect, and using Hello Kitty allowed for a lot of people to sneak left-leaning ideas to people who wouldn't otherwise care about Black Lives Matter, social equity, all that fun stuff. And so even though now looking back on it, it was kind of weird that Hello Kitty was being used as a protest symbol.
A while ago, I posted a community post practically asking you guys if you knew about ACAB says Hello Kitty or Hello Kitty says ACAB actually. And a lot of you guys had a bunch of things to say, so I wanted to include all of the commentary you guys had in this video. And this person says, Bestie, I thought you were saying you like this. I was LMFAO. Yeah, Sanrio literally partnered with McDonald's to make Happy Meals when they were being really boycotted. So the idea of Hello Kitty saying ACAB is like, what the F does that do for me? LMAO. Not trying to act like I'm perfect and have boycotted Sanrio too, but I'm definitely not stupid enough to think Hello Kitty needs to be involved in my politics. LMFAO. Another person says, I definitely understand why people were annoyed/offended by this kind of, I guess you could call it aesthetic wokeness. I'm not going to say that it's wrong for minorities literally getting brutalized by beliefs to feel like Hello Kitty ACAB is performative allyship at best and turning their suffering into the punchline of a joke at worst. And I do know that it got picked up and spread around as like, haha, drawing an innocent cartoon character as rude and flipping you off is funny because she would never do that. I hope or original intentions behind it were much more benign. I had always thought of it more as, look, even this adorable kitty cat who has never had a bad experience with the cops knows they are corrupt, that it was meant as a show of solidarity, but the meaning was kind of lost/corrupted when it became just another meme. Another person said, I remember seeing this in 2020, like non-black people seeing ACAB for a cartoon cat, but not for black people suffering under police violence in real life made me feel like I was losing my mind. This is really what white people, especially white Gen Z activism was during the time. And for the last comments, this person person said, "It always felt cheap to me. Why does everything need to be sanitized, cute, and marketable? Plus, I always get the sense that these little pieces of merch exist so people can feel accomplished as allies after purchasing, and then not engage any further with whatever political idea their favorite cartoon character is saying."
It's introduced a lot of people to more left-leaning ideas and radicalized a lot of people too, so I can't be mad at that. I would rather people use ACAB Hello Kitty and Black Lives Matter Hello Kitty than doing that stupid nonsense of posting a black square in order to stand in solidarity with black people, because all that did was take up the hashtags that people were using to spread awareness with a black square that did nothing to help the protest movement. And so all those people that were posting ACAB Hello Kitty and Black Lives Matter Hello Kitty, they would also post infographics on what to do to support these protests. So I honestly can't be that mad. But looking at the long history that inspired Hello Kitty and the history of the Sanrio company to seeing what Hello Kitty is being used for now is so strange. But Sanrio's history of being weird towards black people isn't just a thing that existed in 1980s. It's still happening now. Sanrio has a weird history with black people, but so does the Brat/Mattel brand. And I'm gonna insert a little section talking about how Mattel is weird towards black people.
So like I said, there has been a plethora of cases of Mattel and MGA just being weird towards black people, and I just want to go over the most notable examples. All of these examples were shared with me in my Discord channel, so if you want to be a lovely member of the Pastoral Court and help me formulate and synthesize all of my videos, then please join. Link is in the description. So T.I. Tiny and OMG Girls allege that the MGA doll line by LOL Surprise OMG copies not only the girl's name, but their image and likeness as well as their trade style, including their dresses, style, and overall look without their permission. The group OMG Girls was formed in 2009. Tiny formed it with her daughters, Zanique Pollins, and other members. And as a young girl, the OMG Girls were absolutely my obsession. Y'all know I grew up with Monster High, Winx, so obviously seeing black girls in real life having that aesthetic was obviously a big niche of mine. And so when the OMG dolls came up, I thought it was a collaboration, and a lot of people did too. MGA launched the doll line in 2019, a whole decade after the OMG Girls came out, and the disputes began when the company sent a cease and desist letter in 2020, and MGA filed a declaratory suit saying it didn't infringe on the OMG Girls trademark. The countersuits then followed. The legal path started in 2023 in January with the first trial, which ended in a mistrial because of the disallowed cultural appropriation testimony, with the second trial being in 2023, which ruled for MGA. Then, based on a Supreme Court decision affecting First Amendment defenses, a third trial was allowed. And in that third trial in September 2024, a jury ruled in favor of T.I. Tiny and the OMG Girls. But honestly, the nonsense does not stop there. We have another controversy surrounding the whole LOL Surprise dolls and black women saying, "Hey, that doll looks a lot like me. Why am I not getting a check?" In this article by Daily Mail, it says that Isaac Lorraine, CEO of MGA Entertainment, the company behind Bratz and LOL Surprise, as well as a plethora of different toy lines, and the influencer/artist Amina Mucilio, I'm so sorry for butchering your name, also known as Studio Mucci, states that LOL Surprise doll by the name Rainbow Raver was made based on her likeness, especially her distinctive rainbow-colored hairstyle. And she said that the LOL Surprise doll practically stole her whole style. Lorraine's response to this accusation had a plethora of tweets, saying that he denied the claim, calling her a liar, an extortionist, and a fraud. He also said that she was a disgrace to black people and the Black Lives Matter cause. This caused a gigantic backlash where Lorraine eventually deleted his Twitter account, removed the post, and issued an apology. And this was extremely weird considering that the whole MGA company is kind of known for stealing and copying black women's aesthetic. Like, You've been doing this. Don't try to act like this is a first time occurrence. And I seriously don't know what it is about the LOL surprise dolls in terms of someone always having to complain about the dolls ripping off their style. But in another article, Muchillo, also known as Studio Muchi, says that after she publicly raised the issue, MGA filed copyright takedowns requesting that her stuff be taken down, which forced her to take down her own content. She eventually bought a Rainbow Waver doll herself and did a public side-by-side as a proof of the similarity. But the fact that she had to do that, to delete her own content, when it's obvious that it's giving that they took her whole design, especially with the history of them doing so, goes to prove what I was saying about this company being weird towards black people. So not only is it that when they make black dolls, they steal from black women and don't credit them, but when it comes to one of the most iconic black dolls that they do have, they want to pay her absolutely no attention. Y'all are acting so weird and I hate it.
But when the announcement that Sanrio and Mattel was going to do a collab, we were excited. We were hoping that with this collab, all of the wrongs that Sanrio and Mattel have done to black people, they were going to practically put all of that negative energy to rest by having an inclusive collab. But as we started to get more information, things started to look really murky, as one of the most prominent black characters in the Bratz brand was obviously left out. If you guys grew up watching the Bratz TV show, you guys know that there are 4 main girls. And so why is it that the one black girl that is a part of the main lineup was mysteriously left out? It caused such a backlash that eventually they had to come out and apologize, saying, oh, it was an accident. But with Sanrio and Mattel's long history of acting weird towards black people, we had to start thinking, like, was it really an accident? Sasha and Bunny Boo, characters that are very iconic, were left out of this collab. And we were honestly so mad because Bunny Boo and Sasha would have easily made such an easy collab for Sanrio because they already have a bunny type character. But their specific choice to mysteriously leave out Sasha goes back to the long history. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but now that I've broken it down for you guys can see that this is a pattern of abuse, a pattern of always treating black people as less than and either perpetrating stereotypes or just saying you don't belong. And I honestly don't think that's right. That's why I consistently tell fans of all these big companies that we need to speak up against stuff like this, because if it wasn't a mass outpouring of what the hell Sanrio, what the hell Mattel, they would have just kept on including black people and mistreating black fans as they have done forever at this point. So what does this all mean for my girl Kitty White? At the end of the day, she is a mouthless, apolitical icon. But we as the people who love Hello Kitty can use her for whatever we want. You could be like the country of Japan and try to use her to hide your war crimes. You could be like the left-leaning people on TikTok that use her as a protest symbol. She can be whatever we want. But what she can't be is an excuse to continue to perpetrate harm. But as I talked about extensively in this video essay, people use cuteness and kawaii aesthetics to hide the wildness that has made up history. But now that we know better, we have to do better. We can't just put a cute little bow on war crimes and try to practically kawaii-fy and trendify something in order to make it less harmful. Don't get me started on the whole Dubai chocolate situation. That's a topic for another day. But now that we know better, we have to do better. We have to reckon with the dark histories that make up a lot of our favorite things and do better. That's why I'm hoping that with the whole backlash that came from black fans to Sanrio and to Mattel, that we can have an actual inclusive representation of brown skin, dark skin, without having to do whatever the hell this is. Thank you guys so much for watching until this point of this video. It seriously means a lot. This video was seen first by all of my lovely Patreons who have honestly been holding it down for me. They're the main reason why I'm still able to read long research papers, dive deep into these obscure archives in order to find weird obscure things to make videos on. So if you want to support your girl, make sure to join the Patreon. Let me know if you knew about the dark history of Sanrio and Japan's weird obsession with blackface. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!